It's here. We're talking about it. Penn State football fans, a conversation that we've had for so long here on the Blue White Illustrated YouTube channel and even longer over at bluewhiteillustrated.com. I'm Thomas Ryan Carr. Sean Fitz has been covering this story for as long as anybody, so I'll let you do the honors. I know it's in the title. I know it's in the thumbnail, but tell fans, I love the reveal part. Who has Penn State gotten to commit to the class of 2025?
So the end of the early signing period is Friday. I know you didn't expect to see us on a Friday afternoon. It might not be the last time you see us, by the way. But it is a big one for Penn State. And this is one that we've been tracking for a long time. I know a lot of Penn State fans kind of felt fatigued about this one. But Penn State has flipped Andrew Olesh from Michigan, a top 100 tight end in-state prospect, the number one prospect in Pennsylvania in the class of 2025, the number 3 tight end in the class of 2025, and the number 55 overall prospect, according to the On3 industry rankings. He's slightly higher at On3, 43 overall, 2 tight end, and number 1 in Pennsylvania. It's a big one, man. It is a big one. We talked about it earlier this week when Penn State decided to move on Brian Kordovich, the Purdue flip at tight end. It wasn't the end. They weren't taking him because they had found out bad news about Andrew Olesh. Despite the logic that would come with that, despite the multiple people saying it over and over again, it just wasn't true. Penn State was in this till the end and got it done. From what I heard, it came down to Penn State and Oregon, actually. He visited Oregon last weekend. Of course, Michigan has held his commitment since July, but I heard it was between those two schools, and Penn State was able to get it done. So for a group that did not look too rosy in the summer months, I'm talking about the in-state recruits from Penn State, Andrew Olesh, the number 1 prospect in Pennsylvania, is going to stay home.
That's massive on so many different levels. And the narrative and the storyline of this class was, yes, they got a lot of good players. Ryan and I talked about it on Wednesday when we talked about the evaluation of this class. There's a lot of underrated players. To get a guy that's a no-doubter, hey, this dude has a ton of talent, a top nearly, and obviously, no doubter in terms of talent. We all know that the translation to the next level is always fraught with the intrigue of any of these players cannot work out. But to get a player of this caliber, of that ranking, how important is that to just the holistics, overall, the psyche, and the reality of this class?
You take a look at what we said on Wednesday. Penn State with the 16th class nationally, according to On3, 5th in the Big Ten, which is roughly around where they've been, just a bit below where they've been. But you look at the difference between this class and previous classes, and it was not as top heavy. The stars were missing at the top of the list. And you look at Pennsylvania, you look at the early cycle that Penn State went through, and they had quite a few misses, Olesh being one of them. So you've got one top 100 prospect in Malachi Goodman that signed on Wednesday. Now you had a second, and this is your top ranked prospect in the class of 2025. Should pretty much end that way, no matter what Bryce Baker, the quarterback that's committed to North Carolina, decides as well. But yeah, that is what they were looking for. They're looking for something that not just from a rankings perspective, but like the cherry on top is a pretty good one. So I think that's what it means for Penn State. Still a really top to bottom, pretty solid class. But when you add these pieces, these slight little pieces, and you're going against a direct competitor in Michigan, you're going against a direct competitor that you're going to directly compete with on Saturday night in Oregon, Alabama, Florida, Notre Dame, the visits that he took were indicative of his level of recruitment. Because we talk about offer lists and, do you judge on offer lists? Do you judge on star rankings? I mean, who these kids are really being pursued by, and I just gave you that list, is a pretty good indicator of how good of a prospect he can be. And I will step back from your sure thing. I don't know if you said sure thing earlier, but there's still a lot of work to do. You can never sit here and tell you that this guy is going to be a star. Right. But when you take a look at Penn State's tight end class, you now have Andrew Olesh, you now have Matt Henderson, who's been in the class for a long time. You now have Brian Kordovich, all 3 hyper athletic for that position. And also they bring the size with them, each of them 6'4", 6'5". They can really run. And you see what Penn State's been successful for, regardless of who's calling the plays, regardless of whether it's Tyler Bowen or Ty Howel. Penn State's tight end pedigree has really come through in this one as well.
Yeah, and to be clear, if you're watching here on the Blue White Illustrated YouTube channel, the point about the recruiting and saying a no doubter is when we're talking about a guy who is 6'5", 33 plus inch arms, massive hands, easy catcher of the football, fluid, graceful route runner. You see these characteristics that mean the success and failure is down to the other things. And if Penn State's recruiting him, obviously they see the talent, the physical talent. But then this is a tight end who's returning punts, as you can see here. So just the level of athlete is the part of there are no questions about his physical profile. And so when you have a player like that, you can blend into a class. When you have guys that have upside, you got to have guys that have talent. He obviously has to get to the size of a tight end. But, that's what I think of Andrew Olesh. And when I look at this, I look at an extreme receiving talent potential with all of the traits and markers of a guy who has some of the most potential laden film I've seen in a while from that tight end position. So I guess, do you agree with that, or where do you think the work is to be done? And generally, what do you think of Andrew Olesh?
Well, the stars will go away when he gets on campus, and that's true for all of these guys. And I don't think that that's something you want to carry through. We're seeing a lot of guys going to the portal, and their star rankings are still attached to them, and they haven't really done much at their current school. So like the stars are going to go away. I mean, we're the recruiting industry. We make the stars, and we put that out there. But at the end of the day, I mean, that all changes when you step onto campus. But you got the piece of clay here in Andrew Olesh, who is over 6'5". He's about 210-ish right now. Big hands, long arms, very athletic. He caught my attention when he came to camp as a junior, ran a 4.18 shuttle, which does not happen when you're 6'5". And this is a guy I'm like, okay, well, we're going to put him in the back of the mind, and he continued to creep forward as a junior, plays at Southern Lehigh, and they made a really good run through the state playoffs this year. But that's not exactly a hotbed for Division I talent. So, you continue to look at the triangle numbers, you look at all the things that, sort of would carry over in the film, and you really like what you see there. Penn State offered in January. I thought at the time that it wouldn't be long until he was in Penn State's class, but then he just kept blowing up, and then he just kept getting further and further ahead of the game and getting Alabama offers, getting, just all over the country, these schools coming after him. And then all of a sudden the recruitment takes place. And when you go from 0 to 60 that fast, like he did, it all comes at you from every angle. And committed to Michigan, was really confident in his commitment to Michigan over the summer. The academics there, the athletics, very tough to beat the combination that Michigan presents. But this is one that Penn State kept chipping away on. This is one that's right in the backyard. James Franklin went and saw him this fall. It was not a direct visit, but went by the school. And these are the things that matter. And then when you add on top of it what Penn State was able to do with Tyler Warren this year, what Penn State was able to do with Luke Reynolds this year, a true freshman. This is a kid, by the way, this is a kid that Olesh, he wants to play. He wants to come in here and make a statement as a true freshman. Ty Howel has played true freshman at tight ends. He did it this year. Of course, Andrew Rappleyea getting hurt kind of vaulted Luke Reynolds into it, but Reynolds has been a guy that's been out there. He took a flipping fake punt against Minnesota. I mean, that is showing the trust that you have. If you're talented enough, you can get onto the field and you can play at any position. And I think that that's really what they hammered down the stretch is, hey, you can get onto the field. And then once you get on the field, you do all these things that we do with Tyler Warren. You're kind of that mold. You're kind of that athlete. You're kind of that guy that makes sense. And I can't wait from a analytical perspective to watch this tight end class play out because like I said, 3 hyper athletic big guys that can run is a good recipe for what you're doing there. Of course, Jerry Cross is going to hit the portal on Monday. So I think there's an opportunity there. Everyone's going to go along at their own speed, and I'm really excited to see how it plays out.
Yeah, bites at the apple, I think, is a great way to put it, too, when you talk about those 3 guys at tight end. If you're going to be tight end, and Penn State wants to pivot to having this strength and maintaining it from Mike Gesicki all the way to Tyler Warren, getting guys like this doesn't hurt, and they get another one in Andrew Olesh. So final thoughts here as we get out of this conversation about Andrew Olesh, either about that recruitment or about Penn State's recruiting in general in this second phase of the early signing period, which feels like it's going to linger a little bit here for Penn State.
Hey, they closed on it. They did the job that they had to do. There was a couple of weeks ago, I felt very good about Penn State flipping Andrew Olesh, and then all of a sudden Michigan gets Bryce Underwood, and he takes the official visit to Oregon, and all these things happen, and you're kind of like, okay, well, maybe it wasn't the time. Maybe it wasn't that push. And we know that timing is everything, especially we saw it with Brandon Finney this year. Penn State surged in November. I guess it was late October, early November, and then all of a sudden faded at the end. And he ends up signing with Oregon. It's about timing. It's about hitting the right buttons at the right time. And James Franklin, Ty Howel, and I'll say it here, NIL, big factor here. Penn State bucked up and did a really good job there. And that's I think that's probably a confidence instiller when you move forward is something that you can look at and say, hey, Penn State understands the situation. They understand what's going to go on. It comes from the top. Pat Kraft is very committed to making that happen. And I think that, you're going to continue to see this. And from what Penn State did in state this year, where it looked like a very down year, to swoop in and get the number one player in the state at the very end, all of a sudden, that looks pretty good. So, like I said, Penn State entered 16th in the nation in recruiting class. I'm not sure how much it changes with the math and everything like that, but a really big swing at the end of the early signing period, and it should be an exciting one for Penn State.
Good momentum, if nothing else, from where you want to go, and everything else you just underlined. Something Fitz said, he kind of threw it in there, a little bit of subtle foreshadowing. Don't go too far, because there's a lot of stuff coming from Blue White Illustrated in the next couple of hours, next couple of days, because we've got things going on here heading into conference championship day against Oregon on Saturday. I'm Thomas Frank Carr. He's Sean Fitz. We'll be back with the next breaking commitment, next video, next whatever we got. We got tons of stuff coming for you here on the Blue White Illustrated YouTube channel.